Duane, we're back after a little break. I think there are a number of other things that you would like to relate to us about your experience with the Wildlife
You
Commission.
know, each of us can relate conflicts and some rough spots in the, as we slid down the banister of life, you know, we got some splinters. But with the magazine, we had to be a little bit careful about subject matter. And is this going to be accepted by the public, or what's the governor going to say, or the director? Actually, Mr. Patton rarely entered into the content of the magazine.
That's correct. Yeah.
The first he saw it, and frankly Rod Amundsen also, was when they got it in the mailbox. That was fine, but it left a little bit of concern. Let's see, do I dare say this or that?
Yeah.
Jim Wallace, the mayor of Chapel Hill, back in the 60s, was also a very devoted environmentalist. He did an article on Texas Gulf sulfur. It was Texas Gulf sulfur. That was, I think it's changed now. Very, very critical of their water policies and their land use and so forth. Very, very sharp criticism. Apparently, he submitted that to Texas Gulf before he handed it to me. I remember him sitting there, and I said, Jim, do you think this will go? He says, I don't give it blankety blank. You publish it. It's a truth. Well, I said, don't you suppose we better run it by? He says, I've already run it by Texas Gulf. 2 days later, Texas Gulf's lawyer came into my office at the Albemarle building, sat just where you're sitting. Mr. Raver, about this article of Jim Wallace's, he said, we don't agree with a lot of things that he has said there. Let us fly you over Aurora and Texas Gulf and show you. I said, whatever his name was. I said, no, we've decided to publish it. I think you're making a big mistake. He didn't threaten, but it was almost in that threatening tone. Well, I was really shaking in my boots, to be honest about it. But we went ahead and published it, and no repercussions. It was the truth, there's no question. They had some water policies there that have now changed, by the way. But at that particular time, they were not a very good environmental neighbor.
That's right.
Of course, they're a big outfit, and they could have, I guess, shut us down. I don't know. But that was one of the times that there were other articles that we went out on limbs, I guess, so to speak. I'm no courageous editor, don't misunderstand me, but there were times when we simply said, this is in the best interest of the wildlife program, and we're going to publish it. The chips fall where they may, as they say. But that was, there are other incidents that I guess we could relate that were not courageous, but concerning. So, and Mr. Patton was, and you for that matter, were very understanding and free-reined. I don't remember a time when we were restricted by the front office to, and we were careful, don't misunderstand me, we didn't go just helter-skelter and whatever, but there were concerns that the commission had that we voiced in the magazine.
Yeah, I can recall one. You remember the PCB fuss we had with the dumping of those things on the roadsides?
Oh, yes.
And finally had to haul them off and put them in a big dump in Warren County. Well, we published an article having to do with some research we'd done on doves we collected, and said that we found some PCBs in them. And I immediately got a call from the governor's office, just very upset about that, you know, alarming the people about it and so on. So we just stating the facts of what we found. We didn't say it was bad or good or whatnot.
Well,
You know, that's how sensitive that can be. I don't-
well, occasionally, rarely, I will say, a commissioner would call.
Yeah,
About this article, you gotta say something different. I can't give you an example now, but that was a rare occurrence. And we were careful about sensitivity to a certain extent, you know. There's no point in making trouble, but many of the problems that we faced in the 50s and 60s are still problems
Oh,
today.
yes. Yeah.
They have not been solved, they've been mitigated to some extent, but anyhow. Let me glance down here a minute, it seemed like there was something.
Okay.
Ross Stevens,
You
down
got it.
here. Hayden Knowles, Gene Schwall, Fred Barkalow, Tom Quay, Stuart Critcher, Macy Hoyle, Frank Barrick, of course, and you, for that matter, Don Hancock. Well, we could go on, that folks that have made a difference.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean to sit here and say that we changed the face of North Carolina, but I believe that we all contributed substantially.
There's no question about it. And we built an outstanding program, and I say that proudly and not bragging. And it's functioning today, and I think we take a lot of pride in
Of
what
course,
we did.
it's a different day. I'm not sure now that we would, either one of us, withstand the pressures and so on
Well,
of,
that's true.
of the environmental pressures and so forth, but,
Some of the challenges are the same, but a lot of them are new, and some of the old ones just won't go away, like population
Exactly.
growth and that.
Yeah.
So, well, Duane, it's been real interesting reviewing that program. And one other thing I'd like you to talk about a little bit, and that is your other career, or if you want to call it that, as a wildlife artist and illustrator.
that was,
Because, two reasons. One, it's interesting, and the other is, I think your work there has had an impact in wildlife education across the state.
well, you may be right. This was something that I just was there. There was no, I have no training in art. Somebody said, well, it looks like it, but seriously, it was just there, and as soon the commission found that I could do this, I started doing magazine covers. As soon as we went to color, in the magazine covers, they said, well, we need this or that, can you do that, or illustrate an article. Then, in 1984, Chuck Minuch, Dr. Minuch with NOAA, came to me and said, I'm going to write a book on the fish of the southeastern United States, I want you to illustrate it. Oh, I said, Chuck, I've got this and that. No, I said, take your time, we'll do, quote, a few fish illustrations. Well, as it turns out, I did over 100 illustrations, both fresh and saltwater, for Chuck's book. This is out of print, by the way, now. It was printed 3 different times. So this, of course, helped with my career in the Wildlife Commission. And then when I retired in '79, the program of the license stamps was started in '84, I believe. I could look up on the wall and see the quail stamp print up here on the wall. I retired in '79. So then I was free to do things, frankly, that were not in conflict.
Right.
I was very, very careful about, when I did a cover for the Wildlife magazine, that painting stayed in the office. Well, Bob, let's face it, the commissioner would come along, what are you going to do with that? I said, well, I'm going to hang it. Well, you mind if I take it and store it for you? Well, it's gone. Not much I could say, Mr. Whoever, please, but that was that. So I did some of the, over the years, many covers, and then when I retired in '79, freelance work just dropped in my lap, just one after another. It was just amazing how much freelance work particularly with fish. The Fish and Wildlife Service series that I did many years ago. Since being a fishery biologist, I'm a little more familiar with fish and their intricacies, and that was my specialty. But then kind of had to branch out because I started getting requests for this and that. So over the years, it's been very interesting. Two layered career, so to speak, and they've kind of dovetailed here and there. I did some collecting, of course, of fish, and now working with the State Museum and Natural Sciences. If it weren't for them, would read today. I did 13 sharks for a sea grant program in Oregon, and oh gracious, we had to really scrounge to get those about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The new building, the Wildlife Commission building, I hope it'll be built, and so do you, out in the Centennial campus. I did over 50 little 4x4 illustrations that are going to go on a 40-foot map on the first floor of the Wildlife Commission offices. Everything from monarch butterflies to black bear to trout to insects to songbirds, one after another. It took me a month or more, I guess, I don't remember, this spring to do those in this early summer. So that, it's just endless. Not that I'm all that great. I told someone the other day that I wasn't not good, but I was available. So, but the Southeast, Florida, the magazine covers from Florida, Virginia, West Virginia, South Carolina, over the years. Now they've gotten a little more sophisticated. I've kind of dropped back, and really I've spent more time goofing off, so to speak, fishing. I try to get out fishing once a week. I had good luck yesterday. But the artwork has always been there, from 5 years old, and as I mentioned, it was kind of, should I go to art school or wildlife management? So, but this has always been there. How much longer my wrist or my eyes or whatever I will hold out, I'm not sure I'm getting any better, but I'm still trying. And it's been an interesting, as you said, kind of a double-edged type thing. And as soon as the Wildlife Commission found out that I could do them, and when Duane left the scene, it was, hey, we need a cover, or we need an illustration here, or can you do this or that? And it's been fine. I've no welcome. And the wildlife calendar, the last couple of years, I haven't had anything in there, but I understand the new calendar, the 04, will have two of my paintings in there. Rainbow trout, and I believe one that I did for the Hyde County Waterfowl Association. I believe it's swans over Mesquite. So various agencies did the big fish chart that's still kicking around. I wish they could do that over. That's back in Joel Arrington's
Oh
day.
yeah, that was a while back.
Whoa! And some of those I hope I've gotten better at fish illustrations.
But this is something you're working on
Well,
right now?
I do the village yesteryear at the state fair, and most of the rest of the things in the room here are little plaques and so forth, belt buckles and little pins and so on. But I usually go with one fairly substantial, large painting. This is, I hope, about 95% finished. I may find that I need another bird or something here, I'm not sure. It's not finished, but turkeys, our daughter's a taxidermist. You've been in her, matter of fact, we're in her shop now, in my little portion of her shop, and I said, Diane, have you got a turkey gobbler, or have you got a rainbow trout, or have you got grouse, and it's really been very beneficial to look up on the wall and bring down a subject that I usually, before we moved out here, I relied on the State Museum. Goodness, I was down there almost on a daily basis for covers of Wildlife Magazine and so forth, and still rely on them very, very heavily for subject matter models, so to speak. Don't do much hunting anymore, do a lot of fishing. I just was never much of a wing shot, and I don't want to embarrass myself now. Our little grandson, Lewis, that lives right next door to where we're speaking, 10 years old, I think he's got 8 or 9 deer and so on, and he's just into it. So it's been handed down, I guess, to some extent. Our daughter, as I mentioned, Diane, is a taxidermist, and we're in her shop today, and never ceases to amaze me why she selected that. And I asked her the other day, and she said, she pointed right to me.
Mhm.
So the influence, I guess, is a
Sure.
little bit there. But this will be out at the fair, framed and hanging on the wall. Come on out in October.
That's great, that's great, yeah.
But I enjoy doing that, and some of them work. I told somebody the other day that the doctor can bury his mistakes, and I had to throw mine away, and I've got a drawer full of them that didn't work. And some of those sharks I did for Sea Grant in Oregon went back and forth there, and their experts were far better than I. We've been to Alaska 4 times. We're supposed to go the 5th time this summer, and my wife had some heart problems, and did some sketching up there of various animals and fish and birds. So anyhow, it's an interesting adjunct to my
Yeah,
career.
I can't think of anything more interesting to do in retirement than what you're doing.
Well,
No reason to quit.
it becomes a little annoying when I can't do exactly like, none of them come out exactly right. I guess they never will. Somebody asked me, said, what's the best one you've ever done? I said, it's the next one. Well, that's not exactly true. I think I've reached whatever peak that I'm gonna reach, and I hope as soon as I start going downhill, I hope somebody will tell me.
Well, it's certainly great work, and I think it has gotten better all the time. I look at the one you gave me, the rough grouse, every day and admire that.
Well, I've had,
Piece of work.
when I do this the village yesterday at the state fair, I have people come up, oh, I love that painting you did in 1964. I have no idea what they're talking about. None, I've done hundreds, and I just can't imagine which one they're talking about. But the further they describe it, then I say, yeah, I remember that. So, anyhow, it's been an interesting, it's not over yet. I hope I continue on, and as long as my wrist will hold out, my eyes will continue with it. Sure will.
Well, your reward, I know, is probably the greatest one, of just satisfaction. And have done the things, but you've also had some formal recognition for some of your work,
no
too.
question. And I was astounded, just dumbfounded this last winter when the Wildlife Federation gave me that Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
put me in there. They didn't tell me what it was till I got out there. And here were my brother-in-law and my relatives and so forth. And I thought, what are they coming out here just to see this program? And then when they announced that I was inducted to the Wildlife Hall of Fame, I thought, oh, goodness, do I
They surprised you.
Oh, no question about that. Yeah, pleasantly surprised.
Well, that's just about the best you can do right there.
Well, I guess so. I didn't realize I'd heard others that had received that honor, but now I guess I'll have to live up to it. I'm not sure I can.
You've done that already.
Well, we keep trying.
Yeah, yeah, and I see several others there from the Federation.
Oh, well, that retirement there, and some of the sportsman's prints there, that program, as you well know, as soon as they discontinued, this goes back a long ways, in Charlie Shaw, bless his heart,
Yeah,
I hate to see him move on. He would come to me and says, we need more paintings in our exhibit, so I do a couple, and, anyhow, it's been an interesting, and it isn't over yet, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, Duane, I think you can be real proud of your career and your accomplishments, and I think we all, people of this state, owe you a great debt of gratitude, I guess is the
Well,
word, for
yeah.
the work you've done in advancing wildlife conservation and education.
Well, you know, at the fair, people come up to me and, have little kids 5, 6 years old. I remember you when I was just as his age. Well, yeah, you're right, I go back a long ways, you know, but, it's not over yet.
Well, I think if there's one person that is recognized by more people than any other in this field, it's you. Your name brings a lot
Well,
of recognition.
Of course, the younger folks, there's some, the calendar's full of great artists now. Back in my day, when they started the calendar, we had to really kind of scrounge for artwork, but I enjoy doing it. As long as I do, I've slowed up a little bit. We're scheduled to go back to Alaska for the 5th time as soon as my wife recovers from open heart surgery, and still going to do hunting and fishing. I try to get out fishing once a week, and not much on hunting anymore. I've never much of a wing shot. Of course, our daughter, the taxidermist, occasionally will come up and say, what do you think about this, or should I do this or that? So I still keep my hand in it, that's for sure.
Well, it's been fun talking with you, and keep going.
Well, I shall until somebody says, man, you really missed it this time, and I'm waiting for that to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, Bob.